Let's create, turning power to the people's hand.
Hello everyone, this is Shankar coming live to you from San Antonio, Texas. I haven't been live in a few days, but I am here today with lots of updates for you. It is July 21st of the year 2021, and you are ready to get all the information needed to navigate crypto and to make sure you get your piece of the pie, as we say. Let me know if you're with me. Let me know in the chat, because we're going to get started here in just a moment. As always, let me know in the chat. I'll just make sure I am here for all of you. Let me know how you are. All right, Andrea is ready indeed. Great.
Crypto's here to lead a bright day. Educate and trade, let's pave the way. The alliance stands strong and brave. Follow. Everybody joins the crypto.
Okay. All right, so as you can tell, what I'm showing here on the right-hand side is essentially a person that gets their access denied to decentralized finance. And I will say I'm dramatizing this maybe a little bit, but I do want you to know that this situation could very well be the case in the future, maybe 2, 3, 4 years in, is going to be very hard, in my opinion, for everyday people to leverage the power of decentralized finance. And the reason for that is a simple one. It is just quite simply because those in power, let's call them the establishment, let's call them the big banks, they never wanted crypto to be there in the first place, because crypto is all but centralized power. Crypto is there to be decentralized, and crypto is there to democratize what you can do with your money. In other words, if you want to use your money and do things that so far are reserved for the big banks, you can do it in DeFi. But there's one catch. In order to participate, you need to, of course, digitize your money. You need to buy crypto in the first place, and we call that process on-ramping. Okay, so you have on-ramping and off-ramping. This is where you transfer your dollars into crypto, and then when you off-ramp, you transfer your crypto back into dollars. Now, in an ideal case, we would not need to transfer any crypto back into dollars anymore. That is the world that basically the hardcore Bitcoiners wish for. And hopefully that will at one point be a reality. As a matter of fact, it already is to some extent, because I do purchase services and products with Bitcoin straight from one person to another, peer-to-peer. And there are more and more companies who accept Bitcoin. We have the Emirates airline. We have a platform called Bitrefill, where you can buy every possible conceivable gift card on planet Earth straight with Bitcoin. So it is possible to use crypto as tender, but of course the masses are a little bit further removed from that. And today's session is primarily geared towards you understanding what is happening and what could potentially be the outcome of the rules and regulations that are set right now. Because as you may know, we've had major legislation passed last week in the US that is truly a win for crypto, but I will say it is a win for big crypto and maybe not for retail, maybe not for the small guy. But don't be worried. I'm here to help you navigate through this. There's a very unique time frame right now where you can position yourself that so that no matter what happens in the future, you will have secured your space that you are owed in the crypto realm. So let's see here. As always, put your questions in the chat, please, because I definitely want to answer all of your crypto related questions. Something I will do for those of you who will stay through the end of the stream is I will also show you how I make my daily yield claim. You know that I cash flow in crypto. I have very interesting investments where I fund the markets and I make my daily claim. And sometimes I choose to do that with you all live so that you can see firsthand the power of that. But of course, it wouldn't make sense to do that if nobody's watching and if nobody's even interested in it. So please make sure you let me know in the chat right now. Maybe type in claim profit, so that I can see you are indeed interested in that. Before we move to that, we're going to do two things. It's going to be a very technical session today. We're going to cover a lot of laws. Specifically, we'll look at the Genius Act, and we'll also look at the price of Bitcoin, of course. Let's start with the more pleasant aspect, and that is looking at the price of Bitcoin, because as you can see here, we are on the path to what I believe will be the top of the current bull run, which is give or take 160,000 US dollars for one Bitcoin. We are here right now. The black line is the actual price of Bitcoin, and the green line is the index of M2. So all the money available in the world that is spendable is referred to as M2 liquidity. And when you shift M2 by about 3 months, you get a look into the future. And if the price of Bitcoin follows M2, you can see that here sometime in September, October, it will reach $160,000 per Bitcoin. Now, this is not a guarantee, of course, but it is one of the many indicators we can use to help us predict where Bitcoin will take us. So definitely put your questions in the chat if you have those. Don't forget to put in the keyword claim profits if you want me to show you in real time live here on this stream how I claim my daily profits that I get from my investments in crypto. I will only do that if you're interested in it, of course. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. All right. Put in the word claim profits in the chat. For now, we're going to switch to another set of slides, and that is the slides show that I prepared so that you all can understand a lot better what the Genius Act is about. Because again, I'm telling you, there is a risk that we will not be able to always have access to crypto to the extent that we have it right now. And quite frankly, if I were you, I would place myself in a situation now so that I will never really be impacted when all of this legislation rolls out in full force. So let's see. We're talking about the Genius Act, which is that's a positive. The first major crypto legislation signed into law by President Trump only a few days ago. So that is, of course, a positive. I like the fact that we got so much recognition, so many eyes on this space. That's very important. So what is the Genius Act? The full name is Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for United States Stablecoins Act. Okay, there is definitely a emphasis on United States stablecoins, And that is very, very important. If you know anything about history, you know that the United States has its geopolitical power because the US dollar basically serves as a reserve asset for many, many countries, many, many businesses. And that, of course, puts the US in a very powerful situation because it is under control of the issuance of the world's reserve asset. And essentially, if you wanted to cut everything short, what is desired here is that as we move into the age of crypto, the US wants to make sure that it remains in that powerful position. So, in other words, we are going to see regulation of a 250 billion stablecoin market. And this was already passed by the House with bipartisan support. So we're getting clear rules for dollar-backed stablecoins, very clear rules, okay? So let's see what the rules are. First of all, we have reserve requirements, meaning when you have a stable coin out there, there needs to be 100% backing somewhere else. In other words, if I issue $10 worth of stable coins, I need to make sure and prove that I have $10 invested somewhere else. And that investment needs to happen in US dollars and treasury bills only. In other words, the US government here is very smart and creates ongoing demand for its money. As you know, the US dollar itself is the US currency. And then the treasury bill, for those of you who don't know what a T-bill is, it is basically a way for the US to issue debt. All right. So that's the way how they will or plan to continue funding the debt in the future. Now, that is very good for all of us who accumulate Bitcoin because we know as more money is printed, the buying power of the dollar diminishes and the value of hard money or hard assets, being gold, real estate, and of course, Bitcoin, can only increase. Okay, so that plays in our profits, in our favors. Natasha, I see the keywords claim profits, and thank you so much for putting that into the chat. So after I've shown this presentation, we will indeed claim the profits live here together. So if I want to be a company that issues stable coins, I need to have the reserves. The reserves need to be in US dollars or treasury bills. There's going to be monthly audits, and very important, the reserve money needs to be segregated from the customer funds. So in other words, if you issue $100,000 worth of stable coins, you also need to have $100,000 worth of reserves. And those two assets need to be completely segregated. They cannot be mixed together, which is, of course, something we want. We want the customers to be protected in that sense. So now here comes the trickier part. There's going to be compliance obligations. Anyone who issues a stablecoin will have to abide by the Bank Secrecy Act compliance. They will have to make sure that they follow the rules of anti-money laundering, of know your customer, and they will also have to apply to be in compliant with sanctions. In other words, sometimes you know that political warfare is carried out by putting sanctions on certain countries. And that means, for instance, if there are sanctions, just to give you an example, on Russia, that means that the Russian funds get frozen and the Russian funds cannot be moved and so on and so forth. So that means there is a technical requirement that is embedded in this Genius Act, and that is the fact that the company that issues the stablecoin must be able to freeze seize or burn the stable coins when legally required. Okay, so that is a lot of power, and that is definitely not what was at the heart of the idea of crypto. Crypto is all but this. Crypto is, in its purest form, financial sovereignty, and this is far away from being financially sovereign, but it is what it is. This is where we are heading. If we want mass adoption of crypto, we have to accept that stable coins, being coins that are always equal to the value of a dollar, are going to be around. This is what's going to bring mass adoption. Okay, so there is a problem though, because as you know, in order to execute sanctions, freeze money, and so on and so forth, abide by know your customer and anti-money laundering rules, you need to know who actually is behind the funds. And that is actually completely opposite to what and how DeFi works. In DeFi, most of our applications that we use are anonymous and trustless. So nobody really knows who is behind the funds. And most DeFi protocols are built like such. Okay, so and stable coins play a big role in DeFi. For example, USDC dominates DeFi lending, and USDT powers most trading. And then most wallet-to-wallet transfers are anonymous, and also smart contracts typically don't require any KYC. KYC standing for Know Your Customer. And to be quite frank, in order for DeFi to be swift and innovative, this is a requirement. We cannot build with the speed of light, and we cannot drive innovation if we have too much red tape that is slowing us down. And that is why really this Genius Act is a big problem for DeFi. So we have these new regulations. Again, issuers must track compliance. We have anti-money laundering rules and know your customer requirements, ability to freeze tokens, and sanctions enforcement. That is all in stark contrast to what is going on in DeFi. So who are the two biggest players in stablecoins right now? Well, on one hand, we have USDC, which is issued by the Circle company. And on the other hand, we have USDT, which is issued by Tether. So the Circle is already compliant with the Genius Act and is regulated by US authorities and managed by BlackRock, a huge investment company. So it is ready for institutional adoption. USDT will have to figure out how it solves these compliance challenges. And that will be a mix of offshore structures and maybe other different solutions, possibly completely retreating from US markets. We have to see. I know, though, that even though USDC has these US dollar reserves, I believe that USDT has their reserves primarily in Bitcoin. So don't write USDT off, not at all. It's just that they have a lot of work to do to be United States compliant. In the world of DeFi and crypto, very often we use offshore regulations, or we use VPNs to kind of erase our location and make us location independent. And I think that is the way to go. I am personally, of course, against any financial crime, but I'm also in favor of everyone having financial agency. And that is what DeFi and crypto was designed for. And hopefully we as a community, as a global community, we can navigate our path through this so that we have a good balance between oversight and financial sovereignty. But in order for that to be the case, you as the end user of money and crypto, you need to actually understand what's going on. So everyone is so super happy about the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. But again, I think there are lots of dangers hidden behind that. So as I told you already, the Genius Act focuses on the issuers of the stable coins, not the blockchains themselves. So what is regulated is the stable coin issuance and the KYC when buying from Circle or other stablecoin issuers. Again, KYC standing for Know Your Customers. They regulate compliance at exchanges. What does that mean? Well, for example, if you go into Coinbase, you have to follow by the rules, right? You have to give them your tax information and your ID. And also, it's very important that we need to understand that the stablecoin issuers need to be able to freeze or burn your crypto. In other words, if the government doesn't like what you do with your stablecoin, they can in the future freeze or burn it, which is really not at all what crypto was designed for. Now, what is not regulated? And that's where we will probably find the loopholes. That is blockchain transactions, wallet to wallet transfers, DeFi protocol interactions, and anonymous trading. And so understanding this and thinking, well, maybe it's only a matter of time until these things also get regulated. Understanding this maybe helps you now understand, well, if I believe in the future of crypto, then I need to, as soon as possible, make sure that I learn how to on-ramp and self-custody. Because as long as you have your funds on the centralized exchange, the money is not in your custody and it is not yours. All right. So, by the way, if you want to learn, you get kind of a primer on how I manage my cash flow, navigating everything legally, and basically living my crypto lifestyle. Those are the keywords. Go to crypto.lifestyle. It's a landing page, and you give me your information, and in return, I'll educate you for free. Okay. The address is blended in here, crypto.lifestyle. Okay, so there is an enforcement challenge that is actually has been created by this new regulation because we have on one hand controlled checkpoints which are at the entry and exit of when you on-ramp and off-ramp. Okay, so in other words, when you buy USDC, you need to be KYC'd, and when you exchange your crypto, you need to be KYC'd. There is a gray zone right now. What happens with the money that is already on chain? What happens with the money that is in DeFi? What happens with the money that is peer-to-peer as it was originally designed? What happens with the money that is on DEXs in anonymous trading? Right now, the Genius Act doesn't cover that. And I believe they intentionally left that open because the people, the rich, just for the lack, I don't want to demonize the rich, but the people who already have money, they want their piece of the pie right now. Okay. And that's why they leave loopholes and they leave gray zones intentionally. And it will probably take several years, maybe a decade or two, to really make all of this airtight. And that this decade, the next decade, is the decade of the golden opportunity when you need to make sure you partake in this. Okay, so what is the impact on DeFi protocols in the worst case? Okay, so no more yield-bearing stablecoins pushes users to DeFi for yield. So this is actually good for DeFi because there were certain stable coins just by holding them, they would issue yield. that is no longer allowed. So those people who want to still collect yield from holding money in crypto are going to go over into DeFi. Now, you need to know how to do it in DeFi, right? And that's where I am here. A forced migration from non-compliant to compliant stablecoins. Again, most likely the three big ones are USDC and USDT and maybe the Euro coin. So honestly, it looks like USDC is going to be the winner in that race, but that it doesn't mean you should write off the other ones, right? A stable coin is stable for as long as the market exchanges one stable coin for $1. If the company can do that without being sanctioned by the US and it keeps operating outside of the US, then all is good. So we have likely a two-tier system, a compliant one that is, of course, going to be mostly on centralized exchanges, and then, for lack of better terminology, the underground DeFi. Of course, you want to operate to the extent that the law permits it in the underground DeFi, because that is where the big gains are possible. If you have absolutely no idea how to even access the underground DeFi, then you know what to do. You need to talk to me, you need to learn from me, and everything starts at my website, crypto.lifestyle, where you can join my database. So I have here, as a positive aspect of all of these regulations, a potential DeFi boom, particularly because everything, analysts predict the shift from the stable coins to the DeFi summer as yield-seeking investors move to decentralized platforms. And that is your good right, honestly. That is something you should do. I generate on average 0.3% daily on my capital in DeFi, because I know how to do that and I want you to learn it as well. So we have a compliance dilemma here that is forming, and essentially the future will show what will win, right? But really, what I am strongly in favor of is that let centralized exchanges be compliant. Let those be the playground for institutional money that needs to be extra safe and super regulated. But please let also decentralized finance have its place in the ecosystem, where the simple man and the simple woman can have access to financial tools that so far were reserved for the elites. And when I say the elites in finance, that really means the banks. The banks have the privilege of lending and borrowing. The banks have the privilege of funding markets. The banks have so many privileges that, quite frankly, should not be reserved only to them. Now, I told you the banks are not the biggest friend of crypto, because crypto really gives financial sovereignty that they never wanted us to have. So it is your duty, in my opinion, as freedom lovers, to learn crypto, to learn decentralized finance, to also understand what potential rules and regulations could mean for your financial future, so that you can also be informed citizens and vote accordingly. Because there are politicians who get it and who will protect our rights for financial sovereignty, and there are those who won't. So, of course, we have lots of market implications with these new rules. Everything that is focused around compliant stablecoins, such as the company Circle, all the centralized exchanges, all the traditional banks, you know, how it says new stablecoin opportunities. Every bank, in my opinion, will look at issuing their own stablecoin. And it will be a privilege reserved only to the banks, because let's be honest, who has the money to have the reserves one-to-one for a money that they issue? That is not going to be possible for small players. I told you there will be challenges for Tether, offshore exchanges, algorithmic stablecoins have been completely banned. And then also, as I said, the small issuers, they will have high compliance costs. You need to have a one-to-one reserve to be compliant, which immediately wipes out most of the competition. So we are already moving toward what historically we've always seen, and that is those in power, those that control the flow of money. In other words, the banks and those who own the banks will most likely on an institutional level stay in charge. That we can clearly see that. That is why this regulation is coming out now. On one hand, yes, customers are protected, but on the other hand, over-regulation will make it very, very difficult for people to partake. And what I am basically saying right now is that you need to position yourself now so that in the future you have the security and the safety of DeFi because you are already in it. This is like buying the land in Manhattan in the 1800s, right? This is like owning assets that in the future you won't be able to own because you were able to see a vision that right now only smart money sees. Okay, Bitcoin is going to be so strong and so established that only the elite will really be able to afford it in large quantities. But it is still extremely affordable, and you can still start buying Bitcoin at whatever fraction you can afford to build up your nest egg of financial sovereignty in the future. Okay, so 2 more slides. What's coming next? More legislation ahead. The Clarity Act was passed, which will be focusing on broader crypto regulation. There's a lot of details that need to be figured out. And by the way, whereas DeFi was a little bit spared from the Genius Act, maybe the Clarity Act will take a tighter grip on DeFi. Hopefully not. One good aspect out of all the rules and regulations that came out was that the Fed is prevented from issuing a digital dollar, which is very, very important. And then, yeah, see here it says DeFi specifics regulations coming in the next few years. So now is the time, my dear friends, to really, really put yourself in position. Things that you can do now, I will guarantee you will not be able to do in 3 to 4 years unless you are already in. How do you become part of it? I can only repeat. You go to crypto.lifestyle, you join my list, and you learn from me because I'm living the crypto lifestyle. I have 95% of my wealth in crypto already, and I live the crypto lifestyle. And don't get me wrong, I do everything by the letter. Everything is legal. There are no weird, shady things here. It's just about being able to foresee what's coming. So the bottom line is the Genius Act creates a regulated but not controlled environment. Stable issuers faced strict compliance, meaning only the banks, and essentially Coinbase has turned into a bank. Blockchain transactions remain largely anonymous. Remember, the point of control is where you enter and exit crypto. DeFi protocols must choose between compliance and decentralization. Market forces will drive adoption over the next 18 to 36 months, and innovation continues within the new regulated framework. anonymity shifts from stablecoins to smart contract interactions. So the question for you is, how can you be part of the smart contract interactions? And that is where I come in. Put your questions in the chat, please. There's definitely here Natasha who said, I want you to show me how you claim your daily profits. And I'll do that. Thank you, Natasha. Is anyone else here that wants to see that? Please put claim profits in the chat, because I definitely want as many of you as possible to see that. What I do every morning is I claim the yield that I generate from my investments in DeFi. And what I do is I basically provide liquidity for markets where others trade, where others buy and sell coins, and I collect the fees. That is all. Simon says here, claim profit. Thank you, Simon. That is all I do. It's completely legal. It's completely understandable how that money is created. It is not some kind of weird business setup. It is not algorithmic magic. No, it is really quite an old concept of funding a market. You provide the money so that others can conduct business, and in return for providing the capital, you claim your fees. And because you have because this is still kind of an innovative frontier, we're pioneers in this DeFi space. Because of that, you get very, very, very nice results. And on average, you get about 0.3% on your capital on average. That means if you have $1,000 that you can invest, the calculation you have to do is 1,000 times 0.003. That gives you the daily profit. So that is $3 every day on $1,000. If you look at what that gives you in a month, that is $90. So that means 1,000 divided by 90, it means after 11.1 months, if you will, you have your money back. Okay, so we're talking about an investment where you are in pure profit after the first year. And this is 0.3%. Now, you've all been patiently waiting, so I'm going to reward you with me claiming the profits. One more word. There are various ways of providing liquidity. There is managed ways where you just give the money to a team and they do all of the technicalities behind the scenes for you. That is actually what I'm going to show you. But there's also doing it manually, and then there's doing it manually, but with assistance of AI. As always in investments, you want to diversify your approach. So what I do is I do all of it. I do managed, I do automatic, I do manual, I do semi-automatic, I do assisted by AI, I do assisted by tools. And I also do it across a lot of different blockchains, even blockchains that you might not even have heard of. Why? Because on a very known blockchain, like for example, the Binance Smart Chain, where I get 0.3%, okay, on a more exotic blockchain, the exact same coin pair, I get 1% daily. Now, how crazy is that? 1% daily. Do you have an idea what that means? 1% daily on $1,000 is, that's $10 every day. Okay, and that is $300 every month, and that is $3,600 every year. You invest $1,000, and then you go into high risk liquidity provision, and you get that kind of result. All right. Let me show you the platform. So essentially the way this works for those of you who have never navigated decentralized finance, everything starts with knowing how to do self-custody, meaning how to have your money in your own crypto wallet. Then there is a number of platforms where you can interact with the so-called smart contracts. And that is what I'm showing you here. Okay, so essentially, I have provided my liquidity through this managed platform. And then actually it says here, you can see I have invested a total of $75,000, which in this platform, a managed platform, gives me $300 daily to claim. How would your life change, by the way, if you woke up with $3,000? I'm sorry, $300 every morning. How would your life change? Put the answer in the chat. How would your life change? What would be something that would be different in your life if you woke up with $300 every morning? I want to know, because really the reason I want to know is this is a reality for me, and it has been for the past this platform, I believe 18 months, give or take, that I've been part of it. And there was only a downtime for 2 weeks, and it was not even their fault. They were using a protocol that got hacked, okay, the CDIS protocol, but they came back, okay. So 18 months of using it, 2 weeks of downtime. It's an okay risk for me. So Andrea says she would buy a lot more wigs if she woke up with $300 every day. So I think she could buy on average 2 wigs per day, which is pretty nice. I know that makes a big difference to her. So how do you claim the money? Well, easy. As you can see here, I haven't claimed these $437 yet. Okay. So what I need to do, and I don't think you will see all of this, but you will see part of it. What I need to do is I will have to click claim. And then on the right-hand side, in the top right corner, there will be a self-custody wallet that pops open. And then I will have to accept the transaction. And then you will see that my claimable funds, they go down. And the money goes from this platform into my self-custody wallet. So let me actually show you how I do this. I'll show you. You'll see here the wallet will pop up in the top right corner. Okay, so going to zoom out here so that I can click the claim button. So here's the claim button that I click. And you see here the wallet popping up. Okay. 3 cents, by the way, is the cost, the gas fee. So I sign this transaction, and now pay attention on the screen where you see the $438 very soon drop to zero. There you go. It just dropped to zero, meaning it made its way from this smart contract, which is managed liquidity, into my self-custody wallet. And now I can do with it what I want. I can spend it, I can reinvest it, I can cash flow, I can do whatever I want. Put your questions in the chat if you have any. If you are asking yourself, well, this seems very powerful, but I don't know where I would even start with this, then there's 2 things I can offer you. 2 things I can offer you. One is I want you to join my mailing list under crypto.lifestyle, and you will get a free 4-part video series that teaches you the basics. Okay. The other thing I have to offer you is I actually have a course that gets proctored live on August. Let me see, on Zoom August 12th and 13th, you and I on a Zoom call for 5 hours on Tuesday and for 5 hours on Wednesday, everything recorded. If you want to be with me on that Zoom call, you have to message me. I have a special link for you. You don't actually have to wait until August, though, because I have already recorded previous sessions. So if you want access to learning this now, you message me and give you a link, and you get access to the recordings right away. Okay. And then you still come live in August with me. So that's all. Those are the two things I can offer you. Put your questions in the chat. I know you have some. You must have some. I know people always get curious when I show this. But if there are none, obviously I'll cut the live here. Any question is fair. I mean, doesn't really. Whoop. Here I am. I'm back. There you go. There I am. Natasha, are you still here? Did you see it? Did you like it? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. Oh, I have a question here. So this was 0.33% on your investment of 75,000. Almost. This platform sometimes offers a promotion period where they increase the yield to 0.4%. So of course, when I see these promotions, I sometimes go in a little bit heavier. It just makes sense, right? So it is a mix of various commitments at 0.3 and 0.4%. And this platform specifically, they have actually, I think they have a promotion coming up again. Let me take a quick look. I think I saw something. Everything in this world happens in Telegram channels, by the way. Oh, so Wednesday through Sunday. So that must be in 2 days. So starting on Wednesday through Sunday, they have a 0.4% promo. So if you want to do this and you want to have, instead of 0.33%, 0.4%, you can kind of wait until Wednesday. Simon is asking, what platform is this? Simon, are you on my mailing list? Because that is how you pay me for that information. Let me check if you are. If you are on my mailing list, then all of you are in luck, because then I will just tell you. Yes. No, he's not. Okay, Simon, I'm going to tell you, it's called PACA, P-A-C-A, PACA Finance. That is how you can access this platform. And again, if you go to my mailing list under crypto.lifestyle, you have a 4-part video series that also kind of explains how you navigate getting to the point of using PACA. Well, thank you, Simon, for your questions. Thank you. Who was it earlier? Natasha, for writing in the claim profits keyword. And thank you, Andrea, for always supporting me and for buying wigs. One thing I will have to tell you, the Paca liquidity platform has to be considered as a high risk investment. Okay, so just make sure you don't upload funds on there that you can not classify as high risk. All right. Okay. You know what? Because I always had to say, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. But you know what's really interesting? I think in a few weeks, I will be able to say, I am a financial advisor. I'm actually going through that process of becoming a financial advisor. So, isn't that awesome? This matters so much to me that I want to be able to give you advice without having to say this is not financial advice. But for now, this is not financial advice. This is just how I lead my life. Okay. All right. I think that's all. Simon will message me on Telegram. Okay. Have a great rest of your day and make wise decisions. Bye bye.